Okay. So in your guidebook, we'll get into the other guided experience later today, but in your guidebook, I share with you the role of the practitioner. And I introduce here from the Mexica cosmology a little bit about the practitioners and how they were thought of, right? These wellness folks in that culture. And so Dr. Randolph Stone was a chiropractor who wanted to understand the body in a holistic way. And so after many decades as a chiropractor, he went on to study Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, and came to an understanding of how the energy body works. And that is the modality that he created based on those teachings called polarity. And so one of the things that he shares is the art of the true healer must be to balance man with nature and tune him into the greater energy field so that all elements can flow and function. That is how nature heals. If nature does not support a correction that is made, it will not stay or help the patient. He uses the word patient because he was a doctor. In our language, we would use client, right? Because we are not medical professions. So, but what is beautiful about what he's saying is that if nature does not support a correction, then it's not going to stay or help the patient, right? So it has to be in alignment also with the individual, right? We have to honor their nature as well. So we can have all the best intentions, but it's not for us to make sure it quote unquote worked. And one of the teachings of Dr. Tanmeet Sethi, who just wrote a book called Joy is My Justice, she does a lot of mind-body circles in her medical practice. And one of the things that she wrote in the book is that when the heart and the mind cannot find resolution, the body will hold it. And so often clients come to see us because something has shown up physically in their world. And yet this thing that has shown up physically may have roots in other parts of the body, the spiritual body, the mental body, or the emotional body. Or it may be something in the energetic field that we, for example, come to understand through the work of like family constellations, right? So something is already present in the energy field, and it may not be our own bodies, but it's present in the field. And so the role of the practitioner among the Mexica is that they would be diviners, right? They would use maize kernels to cast them. Other indigenous cultures also use other forms of seeds to do that. And so I show you here an illustration of the wind god, Hecato, who's standing right there. And here is the diviner, and then you see the speech glyphs of the curls. And so something is being shared, and so someone's asking, can you tell me about this? They're divining the kernels and they're telling them, okay, well, it's about this and this. So but as we continue, the practitioners, the Nahuas in Centro Mexico, refer to their healing knowledge as Disiyotl, and its practitioners were the Dikli. And so these could either be men or women. Each of them had their own specialization. And many of the women tended mostly to issues of birthing and what could happen to them. But nevertheless, they were all very gifted in understanding the harmony of life and worked with herbs and other resources that were available to them. But one of the things that you can do, and why I bring this in, is that we are developing and strengthening our ability to read the field, which in some ways is like divining, right? We're connecting to the energy, we're seeing how it flows, how it follows, but we're also bringing in energy to help support the client while we're doing the work. And so I remind many practitioners who train with me, we are not diagnosing, because that is not our job, but we are here to help clear the field and amplify its energy, right? So that the client, by clearing the field, the client amplifies its energy. So that's really what we're doing. We're spiritual, janitors. We're clearing and cleaning the energy field. And so it gets to come into play. So for practitioners, a few practices. In level 1, I give you the attunement of the bands of power. At the moment, you don't have that attunement, but you will receive it. But one of the things that you can do even now, we could just set that up now, right? So often the bands of power are a tool that I set up within me when I'm in my luminous field as well. But you could do it without the luminous field. And, sometimes emotions show up within our body. We're human. Sometimes, we might be upset or something might happen, and, we're pondering it over and over and over again. And so one of the tools of the second right of the bands of power is that we have these different color bands that can protect us. So we imagine a black band. So, think of like black belt in karate. So we have a big black band that covers the first and second chakra. So you can think of it like right below the belly button, right? Your hands are like this, and you wrap that black band around you. And then you move up to the third chakra, to your upper belly, lower part of the torso. And the bands are overlaying. So the red would overlay the black, right? And so we put that like around us. And then the third band is the yellow band over our fourth chakra, our heart chakra. So yellow here at the heart, right? We put it around. And then there's a colorless band around the fifth chakra. And then there's like a bright white one. Think of it like bright white, silver, right? Just like really like pearlescence, maybe, and that goes around our third eye. And if you notice, the crown is open. And so then we can expand these bands as much as we need to, right? Maybe they don't need to be as far out, but some days they do feel like they need to be that far out. And so these are kind of like our energetic protector bands over our body, over our chakras. And anything that is sent to you not from a place of love, or that vibration of love, gets returned to sender with your light, right? It's just like bounces off and it gets sent back to them with light, not with ill intent. And so we are feeding these bands or these seeds, and through the fire, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. But I wanted to share this quote by Maestro Alberto Villalobos. The process of ultimate protection is the banishing of fear from your life. And we banish fear by going through our own healing process. So the bands of power in many ways operate similarly when you use the shokugei, right? And you create that bubble of light with the shokugei. Or you send the shokugei somewhere to kind of like fill that space before you arrive. It works very similarly, but I've been practicing with the bands of power for a few years now. And I find that when I'm needing to be in a place that's very, there's just a lot of energy going on, it actually helps me feel more grounded in my body. And it's actually quite potent. So you will receive today the first two rites. The first one is initiating you into the lineage of the healers, and the second one is the bands of power. So I will be implementing the chords of the bands, and then you can activate them. But I think you probably felt something even just connecting to those areas and those colors. So it's powerful because it's been around for like millennia. Like it's been around for a minute, whereas Reiki's been around for over 100 years, right? So they both have their process and their service as well. Okay. So other ways that we can use mudras, or our fingers, right? Finger holds or mudras. This is going to be useful for you when we are thinking about the placement of the fingers or the hands in certain points of the body, which is why I introduce it here. So the elements, Dr. Stone thought of the energy body as currents of energy through the elements. So the ether element is our thumb, the air element is our index finger, the fire element is our middle finger, the water element is our ring, and the earth is pinky. In teachings of yoga, there's a difference in the order of the elements and the fingers, but for right now, let's just keep it at ether, air, fire, water, and earth. So if you imagine your pinky is your earth line, is everything in the exterior, right, or the edge of your body, going down to your pinky toe, that's all your earth, right? So you have your earth around you at the exterior, and so you're working your way in, right? So earth, then water, fire, air, ether is at the center, right? Kind of like the center line. So I share this because this is going to be a way for you to also map the body through the elements. In level 1, I introduced that a little bit, but you don't need that teaching, because if you understand, earth is very like solid, water is about flowing, fire is about activating, air is about, kind of like clearing the mind, right? And ether is just like being presence, right? Spirit. If you can understand just the elements as you know them, then you'll be good, is what I'm trying to get at. Maestro Sergio Magaña, Ocelocoyot, also teaches us how to charge up our fingers during the different cycles of the moon, right? And especially when there's an eclipse, that's like a powerful time. Not many of us have access to actual caves and go into a cave and charge up, because you can do that too. So we follow the cycles of the moon. But the moon mudra, ¿qué pasó?
I have access to some caves.
I love that, pero con cuidado, because that's how Idas come in too. So go and protect it. So Maestro Magaña, tells us we charge up our thumb during the black moon. So this is that time right before the new moon, right? And some people call it the balsamic moon as well, right? The new moon is our pinky finger. So this would have been the one to charge up on Monday with that new moon in Scorpio. The index finger is the waxy moon, or that first quarter moon. At the full moon, obviously, middle finger, right? Fire. And then the ring finger is at the third quarter, right? So during those moon cycles, you could like charge up your fingers. I believe our fingers are usually charged up, even if we're not intentionally doing it with the cycles of the moon. But I share this because when we hold the pinky and the thumb together, I can do it more on this hand and not this hand. But when we hold the pinky and the thumb together, this is helping to empty or close cycles. When we want something to grow, we're using our index finger and our middle fingers. If we want to minimize something, we're using our thumb and our ring finger. With any ailments with the eyesight, we use the middle finger. So it'd be like this. And issues with blood pressure, you could use the index and middle finger, which is curious because that's to grow something, but you know, we're trying to grow a healthier circulatory system is the intent. Why do I share this? Another mudra that is also used in Reiki is with your left hand, you're kind of like, it's a pinch of salt, little pinch of salt. And then with your right hand, it's almost like the rock star symbol, but you have your index and your pinky up, and the two center fingers fold over, touching the thumb. And so this is a Reiki mudra, right? So you're harnessing the Reiki, and then you're using the other hand to place it where it needs it, right? So that's another way, another mudra. I share all of this about the mudras because when we are at different points on the body, you can use these, and it's not just like the flat, you know, palms, the fingers together in the palms, where you're projecting the Reiki energy. You can use the mudras to also help move the energy. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So we're going to get into the 3 soul essences. Let me see if I can